Good morning. It's Dan Alasso, making history, and it is 28 days, a full 4 weeks, since I learned that I was being retrenched. So, a little bit of a celebration day, I guess. In any case, I have an update on something that I talked about yesterday. It turns out students, as far as I can tell, are pretty unaware at Bemidji State that anything is happening at all. And I found this out kind of by accident when I began my Women in World History class yesterday by asking if students had any questions or concerns about what was happening at BSU. And aside from one student, whom I had already talked with about the issue before because he's on the student senate, the rest of them just all stared back at me in complete confusion. Like, what the hell are you talking about? I was a bit taken aback that nobody had a clue that anything at all was different this fall from any previous year. Now, that put me in kind of a situation because I really had not planned to be the whistleblower about this situation with the students. But at that point, I didn't really feel I could just say, oh, sorry, never mind, pay no attention. So I told them a little bit about the university's financial crisis and the drop in enrollment and the retrenchment. And response ranged from people saying things like, the administration never tells us anything, to how is it possible that people didn't see this coming? So I explained that the major issue was enrollment declines and that they had been exacerbated by COVID, but that really they hadn't turned around until now. And I did say that this semester, preliminary numbers suggest that fall enrollment is better than we had even projected. I also said to them that I think that students are important stakeholders in the university and that they may have different perspectives and priorities than the faculty or the administration that they should express that would contribute to a discussion of the issues and potential solutions. And I really hope that students will get involved in this discussion and this conversation that needs to be had, even if they're not invited. So we talked about that for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we got on with our discussion of women in ancient Egypt. And it was a pretty interesting discussion, and participation was good in that one, which suggests that kind of the silence previously had not been because students just were checked out and had nothing to say. I think they really were surprised and hadn't heard about this from the administration. And I guess I have to assume from this also that not only have students not been communicated with by our administrators at BSU, but also that faculty have been largely quiet about this as well. And that seems a bit odd to me. Now, I'm not suggesting that faculty should be trying to alarm students and get them all worked up. It's very early in the semester still. It's the second week. So people may be thinking it would be better to let the dust settle a little bit and say something when we know more. That seems reasonable. Or perhaps people are just avoiding an uncomfortable conversation. That seems like a human response too. For those of us who are being retrenched, there may be kind of an effort to avoid making ourselves the center of attention. I certainly didn't want to be the center of attention. I didn't focus the conversation on the effect that this is having on me personally. I don't think that's the point. And I guess of the faculty who were not retrenched, maybe some of them are hoping that this will just end it. This will be the end of it, and that life will go on relatively the same as before. And maybe it will. I think the point, though, is that students who are not only paying, and some of them going into debt, to attend BSU but who are investing their time and their energy, not only in their coursework, but in organizations and clubs and efforts to make the university better, deserve to know what's up. It's not quite the same as telling them that the building is on fire, but let's be real, 15% of the faculty is being eliminated. And maybe ultimately some majors and programs too. So it's at very least a grease fire in the kitchen. And finally, am I the only person who thinks that it might be valuable to understand, rather than just to assume we understand, what is going on in the heads of the students and what's important to them in this process? As I've already mentioned, my colleague called the administration's recent strategic priorities questionnaire a push-pull. And the implication of that was not only that management was disrespecting faculty and the staff, but also that it was missing a valuable opportunity to gain some potential insights and perspectives that they might not already have, and learn some things they may not have thought about. I think the same applies to students. And I have to say, it applies to students with respect to faculty too. I think it's unfortunate that for all its talk of shared governance, my faculty union has not really formed an effective alliance with the Student Senate in the 6 years that I've been working. I noticed this in advocating for open textbooks on campus, and I think it applies equally here. It seems like there might be some missed opportunities. And if the students do weigh in on this situation, I will tell you all about it when it happens. And if the faculty union reaches out to students and they start talking to each other, I'll tell you about that as well. But in the meantime, that's what I've got for you today. So I hope you found this a little bit interesting. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you again tomorrow.